when everything is optional. A meeting sits on the calendar, reminders fire, and at the last minute, a single tap turns "I'll be there" into "not attending." The cost is not the tap. The cost is the quiet uncertainty it leaves in every checklist that depended on that presence. When everything becomes optional, obligations do not vanish evenly. They migrate from shared expectations into individual improvisation, and coordination becomes a recurring renegotiation. Optionality is not merely freedom. It is a system design choice that changes what gets rewarded. In many environments, the exit is made frictionless. Subscriptions pause, plans reschedule, messages can be left unread, tasks can be reassigned, relationships can be kept open, and commitments can be softened into maybe. The system adds a prominent escape hatch because it lowers immediate user resistance and increases adoption. That is the incentive: reduce friction, increase throughput. But every reduction in friction introduces a constraint elsewhere. The explicit constraint is time. Planning requires lead time, and lead time requires reliable inputs. When a system cannot assume follow-through, it must spend more time confirming, reconfirming, and building redundancy. The coordination layer thickens. More check-ins, more reminders, more contingency plans, more just making sure messages. What looked like convenience at the point of exit becomes overhead at the point of cooperation. This produces a trade-off that is often concealed. The trade-off is between personal flexibility and collective predictability. A frictionless no preserves the individual's short-term options, but it degrades the group's ability to make long-term plans. When predictability drops, the system compensates by shifting effort from doing the work to managing the uncertainty around the work. The calendar fills with alignment meetings, the project gains status dashboards, the household gains more rules, the community gains more formal coordination. Optionality does not remove structure, it forces structure to relocate into monitoring. A feedback loop then appears. As commitments weaken, institutions and teams demand more proof: confirmations, deposits, penalties, documented agreements, automated reminders. Those controls feel intrusive, so people value optionality even more and resist commitment even more strongly. The system learns that trust is expensive, so it replaces trust with verification. Verification increases cognitive load, and cognitive load makes individuals seek more convenience. The loop closes. Even habits become subject to this logic. When every routine is treated as a menu item, selectable, skippable, replaceable, there is less tolerance for the ordinary discomfort that habits require. The system rewards novelty and immediate payoff because those are measurable in the short term. Long-term formation is a weak proxy. It is slow, hard to quantify, and easy to interrupt. So the incentives favor the next option, not the sustained practice. Social expectations also thin out. In a world where every obligation is framed as an opt-in, the default becomes non-commitment. The burden of initiating, maintaining, and repairing shifts onto whoever still cares most. That creates an uneven distribution of responsibility. The reliable become more responsible, the flexible become more free, and the system calls this choice while hiding the cost inside the reliable person's attention. This is not primarily about virtue or failure. It is about what attention is trained to notice. Convenience culture trains attention toward exits: the cancel button, the skip button, the mute button, the later button. The mind learns to scan for reversibility, for low commitment language, for ways to keep the future open. Over time, meaning is treated as a byproduct rather than a chosen constraint. Responsibility, in contrast, is a claim on attention across time. It requires a stable signal. This will still matter tomorrow. When everything is optional, the signal decays. People become cautious about relying on one another, cautious about building shared plans, cautious about forming expectations that could be disappointed. A society can still function under these conditions, but it functions differently, with more transactions, more guardrails, more explicit policies, and less silent trust. The second-order effect is subtle. Optionality changes what it feels reasonable to ask of others and of oneself. When the norm becomes reversibility, long-term commitments begin to look like a rational risk. And when commitment looks like risk, fewer people will offer it. The system behaves as designed. It produces many choices and fewer obligations, and then it treats the resulting loneliness, instability, or fragmentation as personal problems rather than structural outcomes. Consider naming, without defending or condemning, one obligation in your environment that used to be assumed and is now negotiated each time. Notice what replaced it: a policy, a reminder, a deposit, a spreadsheet, a repeated conversation, or silent resentment. Examine what that replacement reveals about incentives and about what your attention is being trained to optimize for. What disappears when everything is optional is not only obligation, but the quiet reliability that makes shared life cheaper than constant negotiation.